Let's take a look at some of the highlight tools available to us while working in Viewlet Builder 7. The highlight tools can be used to focus on a specific area of the slide. So let's go ahead and collapse our project view here so we can see more of our slide. And then we'll see what happens as we work with 3 different highlight tools to the slide when we play it back in time select mode along the timeline. The first highlight tool we're going to use is called the Popout highlighter. This will allow us to go ahead and draw a bounding box around the area of the slide we want to have essentially pop out. Now, you notice along the timeline we have a pop out highlight layer, which we can go ahead and change where it starts along the timeline. So maybe we want it to begin around 1 second. We can also increase the amount of time that the pop out highlight will display. So the longer the duration, the longer it will take for the pop out to pop out and then pop back in. And we can also shorten its duration along the timeline as well. Now, to see the effect of what this pop out will do when the slide is played back, you can go into time select mode by getting the playhead as you click along the timeline. Now watch as we drag it along. And that area will pop out. And then as we get to the end of its duration, it pops back in. Let's go ahead and select the layer again and look at some of the features we have available to change with it selected. For example, with it highlighted, we can click this button along the context-sensitive toolbar to look at the effect properties. We can change the duration for the pop-out if we want, and we can also change the percentage of the amount of pop-out that will come out. Right now it's set to 25%. Let's go ahead and change this to 50% and click OK. We can also change some of the shadow properties as well to the pop-out highlight. We can opt to have no shadow by selecting this box, or if we do want a shadow, we can set properties for left offset, top offset, its blur radius, and the opacity of the shadow as well. For now, we're just simply going to go ahead and take a look at changing the color for the shadow, which we'll do here, and then we'll click OK, and we'll click OK again. And then of course, to see the effect, again go back to time select mode by clicking along the timeline to get the playhead, and then drag it. And you'll notice here, we'll stop here, you notice how the pop out is about double the size we had before, and it does have a blue shadow around it. So that's one of the highlight tools available to you. Let's go ahead and get rid of this layer and look at another tool for the highlighters. The next one is the matte highlight. We click here, and what this will do is, instead of popping out, what will happen is when we put a bounding box around the area of the slide that we want to focus on, it will shade out everything else on the slide. And again, you can do the same thing. It creates a matte layer. We can change the position of where it will start to display. And again, we can change its duration. We can increase it by dragging it. And we can shorten its duration along the timeline as well. Now, when we go ahead and change its duration along the timeline, we may be prompted with a timing rule change. Click OK to close this information window. And then again, what you see here is basically what you're going to see on playback. If we go back into time select mode here and we drag, you notice that's what will display on playback. And again, we can go ahead and select the layer and choose various properties. Now, if you go ahead and select the matte layer, you might want to go ahead and move the playhead over to the area of the slide where you see what's happening with the matte layer. Then select the layer and then look at some of its properties. For example, we can change the background color for the shaded area. Maybe we don't want it to be black, maybe more of a gray, and we can apply that. We can change its opacity level up so that the shade is thicker, or we can go ahead and change it down as needed. And we can also change the border color that's shown here around the bounding box. Maybe we don't want it to be red, maybe we want it to be more of a yellow. And then of course we can also increase its thickness and decrease its thickness. And that would be the matte highlight tool that you can use. So that's the second one that we've just shown you here. So let's go ahead and get rid of this layer. And then finally, let's look at the more traditional highlighter that you may have used in previous versions, You may have created a highlight effect using one of the shape tools. Well, now there is specifically a color highlighter that you can use that will do the same effect. So we click the pen and we go ahead and highlight the same area. And this time what will happen is, let's go ahead and increase the slide timing here. Okay, here is the color highlighter. Again, we can change when it will start highlighting when the slide plays back. So if we go to time select mode here, you notice that the highlight is not going to display until this time along the timeline here. And we can go ahead and select the layer. And the context sensitive toolbar allows us to change the color of the highlight if we want. As well as its opacity level, which we could set down if we don't want it to be so dark, or we can go ahead and make it darker as needed. And that again is the color highlight tool. So there's 3 highlight tools you can use in Vulip Builder 7 to focus on different areas of your slide. And you can use multiple highlights along the timeline on the same slide as well. If you have any questions on this topic or any others while working with Qarbon's products, please visit us online at qarbon.com. That's QARBON.com. Happy Vuleting!